As I started a new run as Gale with the main character, I wanted to share the build that I was using. I put a big floppy hat on him and jokingly called him Witch Hunter Gale. A mix between a war priest and a ranger, he actually gets second attack immediately at level 1. With this bonus action, he's either using it to attack additional times or heal and buff his allies. His main attack is a sharpshooter bolt that he can use guided strike to make sure it hits each time. It made early game just an absolute breeze. After the second act though, I figured out a way to increase his spell save and his spell attack with each shot of his bow. This way we can rack up a plus 10 to our spell save DC and then put hordes of people to sleep, giving all of our shots critical as long as we walk up to them. Our Cleric side actually gives us an additional D8 to each one of our bow shots. It's supposed to only work for one turn, but when you're using a bow at least, it'll work every shot. This build was super fun, and I think I'm gonna try to do one special for each one of the origin characters. There'll be chapters below if you wanted to skip around. I'll see you at the end. The first level we'll have to take is Cleric. Now, when you start as Gale, you're going to be locked into Wizard unless you use a mod. I don't suggest using a mod for this. You can just get to Withers at level 2 and then reclass them. But our first level is going to be a War Domain Cleric. Starting out, I would make sure my Dexterity is my highest, followed by my Wisdom. Later on at the end of Act 1, you can get the Gloves of Dexterity, which will then replace our Dexterity score to an 18, and from there you can then put everything back into Wisdom. I picked Healing Word and Command. Those are definitely the most useful level 1 spells for a Cleric. Command can completely skip targets' turns, it's upcastable, it's twinnable, it's fantastic. And Healing Word is one of the best healing spells, but there's also tons of Act 1 equipment that augment it into the best buffing spell. The Whispering Promise, which you can buy immediately as soon as you see Volo in Act 1 at the Druid's Grove talking to the bear, and Hellrider's Pride, which are gloves that you get from Zevlor after busting Kagra's terrible nasty shadow plan. Now Healing Word does a d4 plus your modifier of healing, blessed for 2 rounds without concentration, and 2 rounds of Blade Warp. Level 2 gives us our channel ability, which is called Guided Strike. It's a plus 10 to our attack as long as, well, plus 10 will actually make a hit. We'll be picking up Sharpshooter, so this is going to be incredibly useful. Level 3 comes with second level spells, which is really cool for a War Priest because we get Spiritual Weapon out the gate. Spiritual Weapon is a very cool pet spell. Pops out a weapon of your choice that fights with you, and it takes its own turn in initiative. It's fantastic. It's a bonus action. Really rad. Level 4 unlocks our feats, so we can now pick Sharpshooter. This is going to add a 10 to all of our bow or crossbow attacks. The -5 to hit is going to be kind of a problem in the early game, but because we can bless ourselves without using concentration just by healing with a Healing Word or taking a potion, and because we can use Guided Strike to add a 10 to a missed attack, it's not much of a problem anymore. Our next levels go into Ranger. I picked Bounty Hunter to augment an Ensharing Strike. God, that's such a hard word for me to say. And a Resistance to Fire. The next level gives us a Fighting Style. Now, this is a fun one to choose. It's up to you. When I played this, my Gale, both dual-wield scimitars as well as using bows to attack. I typically, if I ran out of charges to use my second attack for my bow, I would run up and hit them with my offhand weapon scimitar. And having 2 weapon fighting would be very, very helpful for this. But if this is something that you don't see yourself doing, then I would stick to the archery fighting style to increase your damage that way. That +2 to hit from archery is going to make a big difference, and you'll be doing a lot more damage, but it all depends on how you want to play. Our next level opens up Ranger subclasses, and I picked Gloomstalker. Very helpful for my human wizard, now turned witch hunter, as we now have dark vision. Yay! We also get an ambush attack, giving us this free attack at the beginning of a round, a bonus action hide, which would be really helpful to get advantage for a sharpshooter shot, but even more helpful with that is Umbral Shroud, which is free invis, giving us another way to get advantage for a sharpshooter shot. Here I jump back to Cleric, grabbing our 5th level and opening up 3rd level spells. This gives us a spell called Crusader's Mantle, which will add a d4 of damage to every weapon attack, any kind of weapon, to your entire party. I know you're thinking, hey, we got Divine Favor at level 1, but unfortunately, Divine Favor only works for melee weapons. It doesn't say it on the toolbar, but I tried. The spell is fantastic, especially when you couple it with the strange Conduit Ring, which adds a d4 of Psychic as long as we're concentrating. We'll be concentrating on our additional d4 of Radiant. Our War Priest charges also go up by 1, and make sure you grab Glyph of Warding. We're going to be increasing our spell save DC and using the Sleep Glyph and exploring the hell out of it. At 6th level, we get a upgraded version of Guided Strike called War God's Blessing, and now we can add a 10 to a missed attack from a party member, not just ourselves. 7th and 8th level are going to go by. We'll open up a new slot of spells. The spells aren't super important to the build. I took Banish just to play with it. I hate it, I don't like it at all. But 8th level opens up Divine Strike, and Divine Strike adds additional D8 to any of our melee or ranged attacks. Now this is only supposed to be able to be triggered once per turn, but I found every time I shot my bow, it always prompted me to add that additional D8. So absolutely take advantage of this until it is fixed. This level and our next level, which will be 4th and Ranger, will unlock 2 different feats. I took ability score increases in both of these, increasing my wisdom to 20 and my constitution to 16. As far as weapons go, man, there were a ton of bows and crossbows that I played with on this guy. During Act 1, I used the hunting bow, probably the longest. You can purchase this from Damon in the Emerald Grove immediately as soon as you get in there. It's a +1 short bow that's dummy cheap. It gives you a free use of Hunter's Mark once a long rest, and at this time we're going to be Cleric for the most part, so that's pretty sick. But most importantly, holding this bow makes all of your attacks against monsters, or monsters with the monstrosity tag, have advantage on their attacks against them. There are tons of monsters in Act 1 and Act 2, so this is incredibly helpful, and it's not just with the bow, it's with your swords, or it's with a spell attack, it's with anything. Act 2, there is a bow also sold by Damon. It is another +1 short bow called the Dark Fire short bow. This gives you a resistance to both fire and cold, and lets you cast haste once a long rest. Absolutely insane. This is a fantastic stat stick weapon to put on any kind of fighter. Act 3, I upgraded to the Dead Shot. This is a longbow that you can purchase from Fitz the Firecracker. It's a +2 longbow, it lowers your crit window by 1, it doubles your proficiency modifier to hit. It's fantastic. It's one of the best longbows, besides obviously the legendary one. I've got 2 honorary mentions for other bows though. The short bow, the Banshee, is a very cool bow that can inflict fear and then give you additional d4 to hit feared targets. And the Jolt Shooter, which is one of the options that you can get from saving her from the burning building. You know her, you know the girl. This will give you lightning charges for every hit that you get. Both are pretty useful. As far as armor went, I typically just wore breastplates through most of the game. It kind of just fit the vibe I was trying to go for. I also really like the Dwarven Splint Mail. You can get that if you convince Sorel at Moonrise Towers to give you additional aid to find Balthazar. I figured out a really cool way to increase my spell save DC, so I could do things like set up Glyph of Wardings to put whole crowds of people asleep. As soon as you get to Moonrise Towers, you can purchase 2 things. 1, the Dragonthroat Glaive. This will give you an ability to put additional d4 of elemental damage to any weapon. Then purchase the Hat of the Thunder Scion from the Bloodmancer at Moonrise Towers. This will increase your spell save and its spell attack by giving you something called Arcane Acuity every time you deal thunder damage. Dropping a thunder element onto whatever bow you're using will then increase your spell save DCs with every time you hit someone with a shot. Now you can probably do something similar with the flawed Helldust gloves and the Fire of Hat Acuity, but I haven't tested it yet. I'm sure it works. I'm sure you can do it totally fine, but I haven't tested it, so I'm not going to say it works. And after I unlocked Crusader's Mantle, I put on the Coruscation Ring and the Boots of Story Clamor, so every one of my shots both inflicted Radiant Orb and Reverberation, possibly knocking them on their butts. Hey, that was a really fun build. I hope you liked it. Let me know what my next Origin character build should be. I want to thank all my sponsors, but especially these guys up here. Every Sunday, I pick someone from the Adventure or higher rates on the memberships to win some free swag. If you wanted to join that list, there's a link in the description. I'll see you guys around.